Mom says it's a cheap knockoff. My niece smirked, clutching my phone 17 Pro like it was some plastic toy from a cereal box. Her little voice carried far louder than it should have, and just like that, the whole dining room tilted into laughter. Don't worry, she can buy another 10, my brother chimed, smug and sharp. That's what she's for, right? Their chuckles swirled around me like smoke from a fire I didn't start. The clinking of forks, the scratching of chairs, the lemon-scented roast wafting across the table, it all blurred into one thing, humiliation wearing the mask of family love. Hi everyone. My name is Celine Marlowe, I'm 31 years old, and for too long I've been the family's invisible credit card, their silent cushion, the one who swallows words while everyone else gorges on comfort. My niece tilted the phone, examining it. Feels fake, she said with a childish cruelty she had learned from her mother's mouth. And then, as if to prove her own power, she bent it. The sound, that jagged snap of glass, the metallic groan of something expensive breaking under careless hands, shot through me like a bullet. Laughter roared louder, drowning out any chance for dignity. She didn't. Oh my God, it's just a phone, Celine, relax. Kids these days. I picked up the pieces, two fractured halves reflecting the chandelier above like broken mirrors. My fingers didn't tremble. That was the detail no one noticed, that calmness, that eerie steadiness. Enjoy lunch, I said quietly, sliding the ruined phone into my bag like a body into a coffin. No one heard the steel in my voice. They were too busy chewing, too busy mocking, too busy forgetting that I was not theirs to break. That night, the house was silent. My desk lamp painted shadows across unpaid gratitude, across a long line of bills that bore only my name. I opened my laptop, scrolled to the section titled Tuition, Niece, and rested my hand on the trackpad. One click. $900 gone. The payment, permanent no more. Phones snap, glass shatters, laughter fades, but silence carries sharper edges. And tonight, silence belonged to me. The night I cancelled that tuition, I didn't sleep. Sleep is mercy, and mercy had no place left in me. Instead, I sat by the window, the cool October air pressing against the glass, and I let silence become my accomplice. The shattered halves of my phone rested on the desk beside me, their fractured screen catching the lamplight like jagged ice. A reminder. A promise. The next morning, the first call came. Celine. My brother's voice was tight, rushed. The school called. Payment bounced. Some kind of mistake. A mistake. That word hung in the air like perfume after someone leaves the room. He still thought I was the woman who swallowed humiliation and paid on time. No mistake, I said, my tone smooth, controlled. I ended it. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Ended? What the hell are you talking about? That's her future. I thought of his daughter laughing while the phone bent in her hands, her small fingers gripping power she didn't earn. I thought of the roar of the table as they applauded my humiliation. Her future is in her parents' hands now, I said simply. Not mine. The slam of the receiver vibrated through me like a drumbeat. A line had been crossed, one they never believed I had the courage to draw. By Sunday evening, my sister-in-law stormed into my house uninvited, perfume choking the air before her words even arrived. You're sick, she spat, her earrings swinging like pendulums. She's a child. You're ruining her life over a phone. I stood in the doorway, calm, arms crossed. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just giving her what you all taught her, that actions have consequences. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. We'll find another way. You think you're the only one with money? You think we need you? Her words were knives, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the fear. Because beneath her defiance, she knew the truth. For years, I had been the quiet engine behind their show of wealth. The private school, the designer clothes, the vacations they bragged about at family dinners, all greased by my silent generosity. You've mistaken me for your safety net, I said softly. That net just snapped. She left, slamming the door so hard a frame rattled on the wall. But in the stillness that followed, I felt it for the first time, power not given, but reclaimed. If this ever happened to you, say same in the comments. And in the quiet hum of my house, I smiled at the thought. This was only the beginning. By Wednesday, the ripples had become waves. My niece's school sent the official letter, tuition terminated, enrollment suspended. The envelope arrived at my brother's house like a verdict. And just as I expected, the family meeting was called. They didn't say meeting, of course. They called it Sunday lunch, again. But I knew better. When I walked in, the air was different. Heavy. No laughter, no mocking this time. Just eyes sharp as daggers, following me as I set my purse down. My brother started first. Celine, do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know how hard it is to get a child into a private academy like hers? She'll lose her spot, permanently. I met his glare with silence. Silence has more weight than shouting. My sister-in-law leaned forward, voice sugary and venomous. You've always been dramatic, but this? You've crossed the line. You humiliated us in front of the school board. Parents talk, you know. Do you want your niece treated like trash now? I almost laughed. Funny, I said, my tone low and steady. You didn't mind when she treated me like trash at this very table. The room stiffened. They weren't used to hearing my voice cut like glass. My mother, always the peacekeeper, finally spoke. Celine, sweetheart, she's just a child. We all overreacted. Be the bigger person. Reinstate the payments, and we'll move on. Her words landed heavy, but I saw the pattern. Always me, the bigger person. Always me, swallowing hurt so they could laugh. I lifted my gaze, slow and deliberate. No, I said. Just one word, but it sliced through the room like a blade. My niece, sitting at the end of the table with her arms folded, muttered, "It's just school. Mom says we'll find another." Her casual dismissal lit a cold fire in me. Even now, she hadn't learned. Even now, entitlement dripped from her voice. I stood. Then let her find out what another really means. The silence that followed was the kind that makes people shift in their chairs, the kind that echoes louder than screams. I left before dessert was served. The letter arrived 3 days later. This time, it wasn't just a warning. It was final. Effective immediately, your child's enrollment has been terminated due to non-payment. I didn't have to be there to see my sister-in-law crumble when she read it, or my brother slam a fist against the kitchen counter. The news traveled fast enough. By evening, my mother was on my doorstep, cardigan clutched tight, voice trembling with both shame and fury. Celine, this is family. Family. You don't turn your back on blood. Blood. Such an easy word to throw around when it meant bleeding me dry. I gestured for her to sit, but she hovered near the door instead, like she might catch something from me. Mom, I said evenly, I've paid nearly $50,000 over the years for her education. And in return? I was mocked. Laughed at. Disrespected. She's a child. She's a mirror, I cut in. A reflection of the adults around her. Do you really think she learned entitlement in a vacuum? Her lips pressed thin. Silence. Meanwhile, at my brother's house, reality clawed its way in. Public school wasn't just an option, it was the only one left. The whispers spread among their circle of wealthy friends. She lost her spot? They couldn't afford it? What happened? My sister-in-law hated whispers more than anything. To her, reputation was oxygen, and I had just stolen her air. That Sunday, the phone rang again. My brother's voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual bravado. You don't get it, Celine. They're saying things. About us. About me not providing. You're making me look weak. I closed my eyes, leaning against the window. You did that yourself the day you laughed while your daughter broke what I worked for. Actions have consequences, remember? There was a long pause on the line, then a hissed reply, "You'll regret this." But as the call ended, I realized something. Regret was their word, not mine. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family's wallet. I felt like something sharper, steadier. And they hadn't even begun to taste the real cost. The first Monday of public school arrived like a storm cloud over their manicured house. My niece stood in front of the mirror, her uniform plain, shoes unbranded, backpack stitched instead of embossed. Gone were the glossy logos and curated elegance she flaunted in private academy halls. Her protest had been loud enough to rattle their windows the night before. I won't go. Everyone will laugh. Mom, fix this. Her tears weren't about education, they were about status. About losing the pedestal she'd been handed without earning. But there was no fixing left to do. When she finally walked into that new building, whispers trailed behind her like smoke. She wasn't the girl with private drivers and polished shoes anymore, she was the girl who fell. Children sense weakness like wolves. By lunch, her phone was buzzing with messages from old classmates. What happened? Did your family go broke? And though I wasn't there, I could picture it all too clearly, the slump of her shoulders, the cracks forming in her arrogance. At dinner that week, my brother's jaw was locked tight, his wife's eyes rimmed red. The pride they wore like armor was gone, replaced with something more fragile, desperation. You've made your point, my sister-in-law said, voice thin as paper. She's suffering. She doesn't deserve this. I set down my fork, meeting her eyes without flinching. Neither did I. The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. My niece stared at her plate, cheeks blotched, the weight of consequence pressing finally into her small frame. 4 years, they had fed off my silence, fattened their comfort on my compliance. But now silence had turned into a blade, and I wielded it with precision. Later that night, alone in my house, I thought of her, my niece, lying in bed, the sting of whispers ringing in her ears. Part of me felt the echo of pity, faint and fleeting. But pity is dangerous. Pity keeps chains intact. I whispered to the dark, let her learn. Let them all learn. And for the first time in decades, my walls didn't feel like a prison. They felt like protection. Desperation makes people inventive. By the second week, the calls weren't just from my brother. They came in layers, my aunt checking in, my cousin just curious, my mother worried sick. Each conversation carried the same hidden script. Guilt, guilt, guilt. Celine, my aunt sighed over the phone, families fight. But you don't let children pay the price. She paid nothing, I replied, calm but sharp. And that's the problem. Everything was handed, nothing earned. Then came the ambush. I walked into my mother's house one evening, invited for what she called tea. But when I stepped inside, the living room was already full. My brother, sister-in-law, niece perched on the couch, eyes swollen from crying. My mother sat stiff in her chair, clutching her rosary like a shield. This has to stop, my brother snapped. We're family, Celine. We need you. I looked at him, at the family who had treated me like a walking ATM for years, and felt nothing but ice. Need me? Or need my money? His wife leaned forward, voice trembling with rehearsed sincerity. We're sorry. She's sorry. Right, honey. She nudged her daughter. My niece muttered through clenched teeth, sorry. But the word was empty, a balloon without air. I could hear it, feel it. You don't get it, I said quietly. Apologies mean nothing if entitlement still lives under your skin. This isn't about a phone anymore. It's about respect. And you've all shown me how little of it you carry. My mother's voice cracked. Celine, please. I raised you better than this. Don't let pride destroy us. I bent down, kissed her forehead gently, and whispered, you raised me to sacrifice, not to be sacrificed. Then I turned to the rest. You taught her actions have no weight. Now she's learning gravity the hard way. The room was heavy, silence pressing against the walls. They thought I would fold. They thought their tears, their tricks, their guilt would pull me back. But they didn't understand, once a chain breaks, it doesn't return to steel. It becomes dust. And I was already breathing free. The unraveling came quicker than I expected. By the third week, whispers had turned into stories, circulating through my brother's pristine social circle like wildfire. Parents at the academy cocktail parties asked quietly, why isn't she enrolled anymore? A colleague asked him at work, did something happen with your finances? And my sister-in-law's carefully curated Instagram, once dripping with beach vacations and brunch photos, went suspiciously silent. Reputation was their currency, and suddenly they were bankrupt. I didn't have to lift a finger. All I had to do was watch. But then came the most telling moment. One evening, I walked out of the grocery store to find my brother waiting by my car. His tie was loose, his face hollow with exhaustion. For once, he looked smaller than me. Celine, he said, voice rough. Please. I'll admit it. We were wrong. About everything. About you. About how we treated you. Just, don't let her suffer like this. She's falling apart. I paused, studying him. The man who once laughed while his daughter snapped my phone in half now stood begging in a parking lot. You finally feel powerless, I murmured. Good. Because that's what you made me feel for years. He winced, but didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded check. I scraped what I could. Half a month's tuition. Just help us with the rest until we catch up. The paper fluttered in his trembling hand like a white flag. I looked at it, then back at him. You don't understand. This isn't about money. It never was. It's about the way you made me small, disposable. And now, I'm done playing small. I got into my car, leaving him standing there under the cold streetlight, check still dangling from his hand like a useless promise. Driving away, I realized something. Revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't slamming doors or screaming matches. It was quiet, deliberate, inevitable, like winter creeping over autumn. And for the first time, I felt no trace of doubt. Because the ending was already written. The final act arrived not with a bang, but with a whisper. A month later, the private academy announced its new admissions list. My niece's name absent, erased like chalk on wet pavement. There would be no returning, no waiting list, no second chances. The door was shut, permanently. I heard about it through my mother first. Her voice cracked on the phone. She's devastated, Celine. She cries herself to sleep. She says the other kids mock her, call her discount queen. I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply. It wasn't joy I felt, nor cruelty. It was balance. The scales, for once, aligned. That Sunday, the family gathered without the usual pageantry. No fancy china, no loud laughter. Just a strained silence over cheap takeout containers. My niece sat curled in the corner, her eyes hollow, pride stripped away. My sister-in-law wouldn't meet my gaze, her hands twisting napkins into shreds. My brother's voice was quiet, almost broken. You won, he said simply. I set down my fork. This was never about winning. It was about ending the cycle. I gave too much. You took too much. And she learned that taking was her right. Now she's learning something else. The room was heavy with words unspoken, but for the first time, no one argued. No one mocked. No one laughed. They finally understood silence the way I had lived it. Later that night, I placed the two broken halves of my phone into a box and slid it into the back of my closet. Not as a wound, but as a monument. A reminder that some fractures don't need repairing, they need remembering. As I turned off the light, I whispered to the dark. They'll never use me as their safety net again. And for the first time in my life, the word family no longer meant chains. It meant choice. Choice to walk away. Choice to protect myself. Choice to breathe without asking permission. The house was quiet, but the quiet was mine.